And welcome back to Coast. George Norrie with you, Michelle Freed with us. Michelle, tell us about the remote viewing class that you've got going on.
I will be teaching. It's on September 9th, which is a Saturday, from 10, I think Pacific time is 10 to 12 a.m., or 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. on September 9th. It's a 6-week course, and we have a lot of fun exercises, and I take you through all the protocols and things like that. And what I'm trying to do is build a team, because I get emails all the time with people asking for help, and I really need a big, strong team. And some of the projects we actually get paid. It's not a ton of money, but maybe like a mama needs a new pair of shoes money, which is okay, you know. But a lot of times if it's a true crime or missing person, I don't charge for anything like that. But, yeah, so I definitely, and I love teaching. So, so it starts September 9th, and I have quite a few classes that I teach throughout the year. And it's a lot of fun.
Is this going to be done by Zoom, or do people physically have to be there?
No, I do it on Zoom. And if you can't make it to a class, I record them, and then I'll send you the class that you missed so that you can keep up with everybody.
Excellent. And that's all on your website, butterflyeffectcenter.com?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, we've got that linked up for you at coasttocoastam.com. Did it take you a long time to learn how to remote view?
For me, it did take a long time. I'm such a perfectionist that I wanted everything to be perfect until I learned that it's about not being perfect. So, it took me a lot of practice. I've done thousands of sessions at this point, and I still feel like I'm learning. And that's another reason why I like teaching, because I learn so much from the students. And it's an ongoing process. You just never stop learning.
And one thing I've learned, Michelle, from remote viewers is that you don't have to overthink your remote viewing. You have to let what first comes in your head, and then you write it down or you sketch it. But if you think about it a lot, it doesn't work.
Exactly. That's when your left brain is hijacking, and you're trying to draw a conclusion or make an assumption, and that's where you go wrong. So you're right. If, like, Ingo Swann, who we call like the godfather of remote viewing, he said if you spend more than 3 seconds, at a certain point, you need to take a break, because you want it to move pretty quick, and you don't want to engage in thinking. And what we do is we just prompt ourselves, what do I smell? What do I taste? What do I hear? Using all our senses. And getting details is really important, too. So, for example, if somebody perceives water, and it's a missing person, and you want to know what kind of water, because if I say, what does the water taste like? It's not a crazy question, because you want to know, is it salty? Because then that could be the ocean. Is it mineral tasting or fresh or sweet? Then we can kind of identify maybe closer to where the missing person could be.
Good point. Let's go to the phones. Let's go to San Diego, California. Marcy's there, west of the Rockies. Hi, Marcy.
Hi. I wondered if she has viewed who really killed John Benet Ramsey and who really shot JFK.
Have you looked at any of those cases, Michelle, with your group?
No, we did not look at those cases. We did some other ones, but not those. I know, I believe Courtney Brown looked at JFK, and John Benet, for some reason, a lot of people don't want to even go there. I think because it's a child, and, you have to have a certain... it's not easy to do those kinds of remote viewing, because you kind of get into the head of kind of crazy people. And so a lot of people are a little wary about doing those cases. But I've always been curious about Jean Benet, and I've never had the guts to do the session for it.
Let's go to Thomas in La Jolla, California. Hi, Tom. Go ahead.
Hi, George. Thank you for accepting my call.
Thank
Michelle, I appreciate the information you're bringing to the table. And above all, I appreciate your sincerity. Thank you so much. And I have a comment and a question. My comment, this is just my opinion. This is just the opinion of Thomas.
Okay.
I think, in my opinion, that the government shut down remote viewing because of the extraterrestrial presence, and that remote viewers were just beginning to touch upon the extraterrestrial presence within our solar system. And specifically, well, that bright moon above us, are there extraterrestrial installations on the moon or on Mars or even on planet Earth? You've worked with the best of the best, Joe McMonagle, Lori Williams, Lynn Buchanan, and I'm wondering if you or perhaps your fellow remote viewers have stumbled upon the extraterrestrial presence, if you're willing to share, anything that's not national security. And Ingo Swann, I was always fascinated that he insisted that there were an extraterrestrial installations on the moon.
Far side, yeah.
Yeah. So anything you could add to that, Michelle, I'd appreciate it. And again, I thank you for the information that you're bringing.
Thank you, Tom. That's a great question. So I actually did, me and a partner did remote view if there were alien bases on the moon. And a really strange thing happened to my partner. It didn't happen to me. But at a certain point during the session, he felt like everything went black, everything went dark. And so we made the assumption that there was some kind of, I don't know what you would call it, like a filter or a block that maybe he was going in an area that he wasn't supposed to go in. We have no way to prove that, but it was just a weird experience, and I was with him when it happened, and he was very caught off guard when it happened because, usually when we do these sessions, nothing like that ever happens. So that actually was kind of surprising that it happened. And in terms of, I wanted to say that we were hired by Tom DeLonge. There were a group of 10, and when we were tasked to do it, they didn't tell us who the client was, because they knew that if we knew it was Tom DeLonge, everybody would get aliens in their session.
Yeah.
So they didn't tell us that it was Tom. They just said, hey, we have a target number. They emailed it to us. We did sessions. We sent them in. And in fact, I did get these weird-looking subjects that they were holding these blue spherical things in their hands. I remember that. So that was also, so we did do some alien stuff. And I think he wanted to know a timeline. I think that's what was important, because they asked us to do some kind of timeline, like a before, middle, and after. And we all got very similar information that, if I recall, the after was showing that there was something, like people kept seeing pregnant people, and I think it was a metaphor for something that was going to be changing or morphed or evolved or something like that, and that there was some kind of explosive event that was going to happen. So, I mean, all this stuff could be what we call an AOL, where we build up a story from something. So I don't 100% count on things like that. but that is what we got. So it's but nothing's happened. So.
And for folks who might not know who Tom DeLonge is, he was from the rock group Blink-182, who decided to form a company to investigate UFOs, which we haven't heard too much about, Michelle. Have you?
No, yeah, it's kind of like they went dark. In fact, I know Hal Putoff, and he works on their team. I'm not even sure if he's still working with them. But yeah, they just kind of went quiet, and I have no idea why. In fact, after Tom gave us the feedback on this, we never heard from him again.
That's interesting.
So I'm not sure what's going on there.
Let's go to Houston, Texas. First-time caller Steve is with us. Hi, Steve. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, George. Hi, Michelle.
Hi.
I've got a comment and a question.
Okay.
I've got to admit, the last time that I listened to this show was back with George Bell when he had Dean Radin on there. What happened is that Dean Radin had this website that you could go and take a test. So I went and took the test, and I was at work, and I had some coworkers, and we're just taking lunch and kind of making fun of it. But the first image popped up. It was a remote viewing test. First image popped up, and I went through it, and I scored about 100% on that one. I think I had one triangle that was missing. The second image popped up, and I scored another 100%. The third image popped up, and that one dropped off. By that point, I was nervous, and I was getting scared. So I went on, took a few more tests. By the end of the testing, I came up with me being at within the 1% group of all the people that had tested up to that point. After that, it scared me so bad that I quit listening to Coast until tonight. And now
I'm glad you're back, Stephen.
The very topic. The other thing that happened is after that, the coworkers started talking, and next thing you know, they're trying to make me, everybody's personal psychic, and that just kind of ticked me off, and I just kind of wanted nothing to do with any of that. And so it still happens today where I get images for people, and in one case, it actually saved somebody's life. I won't go into that one. That one's kind of long. But what do you do when you've got somebody who, like me, who wants nothing to do with this stuff? I don't want anything to do with remote viewing. I don't want anything to do with but it keeps happening.
You can't get away from it.
Exactly. So, I mean, it helps that I'm retired, and I'm kind of reclusive now, because anytime I'm around people, whether I like it or not, I get images. I get things that, and sometimes they're not nice. And so how do I get rid of this? And I'll take my answer off the air if you don't mind.
Okay, very good.
Well, Steve, my first thought is that these things that you're seeing and experiencing are all natural part of being humans. This is, you just happen to maybe have kind of an antenna that's kind of getting all the information in. And so a lot of people that I talk to that get these spontaneous bits of information that they don't want, I use guided imagery, taking from my hypnosis, where number one is to change the way you think about it, that it's not a bad thing. I know you mentioned that there were some bad things that came to you, but I would change my intention to only receive positive, good things that are productive for you. And then also kind of play with your aura or your antenna, like a metaphor, and just kind of turn it off. And that way, over time, it doesn't happen right away, but when this stuff starts to come to you, just gently turn it off and say, no, I'm not interested. I only want good things to come to me. So that's what I would recommend. And then also change the way you think, that having these gifts are a gift, and the fact that, you could, if you wanted to, and you would be able to turn this into a positive situation, you might be able to help a lot of people.
Have you ever been scared doing a remote viewing session, Michelle?
Somebody asked me that the other day, and I'm going to say no, because just like I said, I always have a good intention. I don't have room for anything negative to come in my direction. Whenever I task my students, it's always benevolent, and I always put that in the tasking. So if we're looking at creatures or cryptids or paranormal or anything that we're looking at, I will say that it's benevolent. The only time that it wouldn't be or might not be comfortable is when we're doing a crime or true crime thing, and that we know going in and we have a protection for it, and we're prepared for it. So I wouldn't call that. I mean, that's like, I know it's going to be negative, you know.
Let's go to Cornelius in Louisiana. Hello there, Mr. White.
Hey there, George. Boy, I've been really enjoying the moon music and everything, y'all.
You got it. Beautiful.
I want to tell Steve what I do, Steve. You know I'm the God, Guns, and Gold man, the Bible, Bullets, and Beans man. If you read Proverbs, today's the 31st. They got 31 days for Proverbs. Read the Lord's Prayer in Matthew 6 and the Prayer of Protection, Psalm 91. So that should help you out, Steve. Now, Miss Michelle Mybell, I'm really enjoying the show and everything. And I told Tommy Danheiser, I deal with the Bible and stuff and Bible prophecy and stuff. And I believe these aliens are fallen angels and stuff. So I want to know, because Dr. Doom, Major Ed Dames, when Art Bell was on, he reviewed the son of Satan and stuff and said around 1999 to 2000, the son of Satan would be born. So I think we're in the end times. So do you have anything as far as Satan, demons, or God's angels and stuff like that? Thank you, George, and God bless Coast to Coast AM.
Thank you, Cornelius. Go ahead, Michelle.
So, like I said, I don't go there.
You don't dabble in the evil, do you?
No. I don't see, that there's a purpose for it for me. I want to be productive and helpful, and I just want to grow. My mission is to grow and evolve as a human. I know that all of us as humans have so much potential, and I want us to be reaching towards that potential of our abilities and the things that we can do. I mean, I feel like I know this sounds, crazy, but I feel like we're all magical, and that we can make a lot of things happen, and we can help each other, and la la la, hippie, hippie, hippie. But it's true. That's my mission. So I want to stay away from the negativity.
All right, we're going to come back and take final calls with you, Michelle, in just a moment here on Coast to Coast. If you're interested in learning how to remote view, a class starts on September 9th by Zoom. It'll be on Saturdays. It's a 6-week class. All that information on her website, which is linked up at coasttocoastam.com. Back with final calls in a moment on Coast to Coast AM. And welcome back to Coast. George Norrie with Michelle Freed. Michelle's website is linked up at coasttocoastam.com. Some people have remote viewed sporting events to find the winners, the stock market to see if it's going to go up or down. What do you think of that, Michelle?
I love it. We actually use that method for some of our experiments. We worked with an expert researcher with dreams, and we set up an experiment where we did 50 trials, and we were remote viewing the future outcome of sporting events. So they would have us have an intention before we went to sleep, and our job was to have a dream of a photo that they would show us after the game. So we would go to sleep and then wake up and then do a session and then send that session in, and then the manager would make a prediction and then actually bet on the game. And after the 50 trials, we had a 62% hit rate.
That's huge.
And, yeah, we felt like that was very significant.
Did you find that in remote viewing that if greed steps in, I'm not saying these were greedy things, but if greed steps in, it doesn't work as well?
I agree with that. So what happens for me is if I start focusing on the money, then I kind of lose track of my session because I'll get all excited about the money and whatever. So usually when I work on those kinds of sessions, I tell them, don't tell me anything about the money until later. I'm just going to do my session, do my thing, and then we'll just worry about it later. But some people have control over that, and they can compartmentalize it. It's getting late. Compartmentalize it so they can separate, the need for money or the excitement about money, and then just do their session. But for me, I just say, don't even tell me, because I just want to do the session. And in the case where we were doing the experiment, that was my focus. My focus was the money was not a reward for me. It was just like, we know that when we do experiments and we want to show the mainstream world scientists that this works, money talks, and we know that that's going to get their attention. So that had a different purpose for me.
Back to the calls we go. Joe in the Bronx. Take it away, Joseph.
Hey, George. How are you?
Okay.
Thanks. Good. Michelle, I wanted to know, have you ever tried to remote view biblical historical figures like Jesus or the Blessed Virgin Mary? And if so, what messages did they convey?
What did we do? Oh my gosh, we did something. I can't remember right now. Well, we did do Ezekiel's wheel, and that was interesting because everybody had the shapes of it, and that it was some kind of force that was acting at, and something to do with consciousness and energy came up with that. And then there was another one that we did, and I just can't remember what it was. But yeah, when I teach my class, I ask the students to give me 5 things that they want us to remote view. And so throughout the class, I'll sneak in some of those targets so that we can do it together. And by the way, I forgot to mention, George, that for anybody that's listening to the show, I'm only charging $415 for the class, for the 6-week class. So I don't know if that would be a nice incentive for people to sign up. That would be great.
What does it normally cost?
$450. A lot of the other classes are in the thousands, but I really, really want to teach it. so I really want to get a team together. So I reduced the price to $415.
How many remote viewers do you feel comfortable using in a session?
The really nice amount is 3. 3 is a really good, but I'll take more any day.
But 3 is pretty manageable, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I'd take more for sure.
Next up, Jeremy in North Dakota. You'll probably hear an interesting story here. Hello there, Jeremy.
Hello, George and Michelle. I have a question. Over 19 years ago, I was in a terrible auto accident. Immediately, I was in a coma for 2.5 months. According to the doctors, I had damaged 90% of my brain. Is it possible for me to be hypnotized?
Can you be hypnotized with that kind of brain damage?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, hypnosis is focused attention. So if you ever had the experience where you're watching TV, have you ever had this happen to you where you're watching TV, you're so into it that maybe somebody kind of walked in the room or walked out of the room and then you didn't realize that they left the room. That's hypnosis. That is because you were focused on the TV. You weren't aware that there was somebody, leaving the room. The other thing that George brought up is if you're driving down the road and you miss your exit, if you're on the highway and you miss your exit, that also is hypnosis. So hypnosis is a natural state. So I would think that you should still be able to be hypnotized. I know another thing that a lot of people that will come to me and they'll say, oh, I can't be hypnotized. And I think the reason is because they haven't found the right person that they trust. And a lot of people have their guard up and they can't relax. So that's a legitimate concern. So what I do in my sessions is we just take a few sessions until you're comfortable, and then we build trust, and that you feel safe. Once you go through the experience and any fears that you have, you realize that there's nothing to be afraid of. Then you can allow yourself to get deeper.
Do you think most people who remote view use it in their day-to-day living?
I think, yeah. I mean, they may not be using it in a beneficial way, but it is happening. There was a point where I wanted to start a business and teach people hypno-marketing because especially when you're writing copy on a website, it's focused attention. And so you can really leverage on that and really help yourself sell things. And the way you write things, the way you write an email, it can be happening all the time. So it is a very useful skill to have, in addition to self-healing and all the things it can do for you personally.
Let's go to Mike in St. Louis. Welcome to the show. Hey, Michael, go ahead.
George, thank you for taking my call. And
thank you, Mike.
Another wonderful guest as usual. This Michelle is just very genuine, down to earth. I have first a comment, a couple of questions real fast.
Okay, sure.
First, I think I've mentioned, in fact, I know I've mentioned this to you and Tommy as well, my 4 favorite words, and that's why I can relate to Michelle. Forward, go, positive, and up, and be a sponge is what I always say. Learn something new every day, even if by somebody you may not like or understand. They know something that you don't know. So be that sponge and do something positive. My second comment, my whole life has always been good intentions and wanting to help people. I'm a giver. And so my first question is a little bit different. I've been seeing on a regular basis for a long time the number 14 and 44. I've seen it a half a dozen times today, 3 times during the process of calling. I want to know if Michelle can see if that is something of a good intention, if she can remote view and see if that's something going intention by someone or some entity that's good for me, or if that's something that I need to move on and block and move on in a positive direction and move that away from me.
You should have called the numbers lady earlier, Michael.
Yeah, I tried, but okay. So the second issue, again, something very different. I've been going through a lot of changes, and I want to know if I'm going to be able to heal and move on, and what process of the time frame do you think? Because I know I'm here for a reason to do something good. I've had that gut in my solar plex feeling for eons. It's very strong now, but there's been a lot of negative just anomalies and different things that have been attacking and antagonizing, it feels like. And I do want to block that. So what do you feel on this, Michelle? First about the numbers, and then secondly about a process of healing, and how long will it take if I'm able to do so?
All right, let's talk about them. The numbers I'm not sure you can talk about, Michelle, but give it a try.
Right. So both of those questions. So for remote viewing, what we do is we have to set up. The way we do remote viewing isn't spontaneous. Like I can do a reading.
You're not like a psychic.
No. You are using your intuition to remote view, but no, I can't. I can guess or whatever. But we do paper sessions where we'll sit and tune in. We have a whole process that we follow. So if you go to my website and the contacting, and then write me a message, and then maybe I can sit down and do a session for you.
All right, fine. And, of course, that's a pretty good answer. Let's go to Joe in Monterey, California. Hey, Joseph, go ahead.
Thank you, George. I'll try to make this quick because we're running out of time. I do different types of healing work, but I also work in an altered state, and the altered state is extremely powerful. Remote viewing is very subtle. You have to do something called getting rid of the analytical overlay, which is pretty much the ego, and just viewing something and taking it down without thinking, because it'll pass you by. That's how subtle it is. Now, I had the opportunity to experiment, and I'm sure Michelle has experimented and found things, and proved things to herself. Well, I was healing someone, but I was doing it in an altered state, and I had forgotten that I wanted to see if I could re-engineer the body, or reverse engineering, or reverse aging, put it that way, and heal. Well, it took some time, because I do know people who do this. They go into an altered state. I feel that it is possible that the physical body can not be hypnotized, but actually accept the intention, the strong intention to reverse the aging or to be re-engineered in a positive way. Michelle, have you ever encountered anything like this? Because I know two people who do this, by the way.
Using intention to heal people, so almost like a remote influencing. I have a class I created, which is a hybrid of the transdimensional, where we go into what you're talking about. It's kind of a healing type course where we have a whole protocol for that. So we can locate physical discomforts and then also tune into the origin of it and then kind of work on it. So we do something like that.
Interesting take on all this. Michelle, would you give out the info on your class again?
Sure. It's September 9th, which is a Saturday, and you can sign up for it on my website, butterflyeffectcenter.com. And on the website, there's information about the Flash of Beauty, Bigfoot film, my hypnosis, my remote viewing classes, and a whole bunch of stuff on that website. Take a look around. I'd love to see you guys in my class because I love teaching, and I want my mission to have everybody remote view. And I think that's everything.
All right. Well, you keep in touch, Michelle. You did a great job for a first-time guest, by the way. For Dan Galante, Tom Danheiser, Lisa Lyon, Lex Lonehood, Sean Ladouceur, Stephanie Smith, Chris Burrows, Tim Banal, George Knapp, and Ian